You're listening to Power Athlete Radio, a podcast dedicated to empowering your performance every damn day. Join former NFL pro and Power Athlete founder John Welborn as he dissects the greatest minds in strength, conditioning, and more. So whether your goal is to be the hammer, destroy mediocrity, or simply move the dirt, you've come to the right place. Now with the warm-up done, let the gains begin.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Power Athlete Radio. Jacob, how many are we at? We're about 848. Yeah, we got a lot. The only person that has more than us is Joe Rogan, and he does like 9 a week, so he's a fucking hack. I'm gonna have to explain myself when one day I do get invited to go on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's like, "Did you call us hacks?" I'll be like, "Yes, as a matter of fact, I did." No, there's a lot of cool stuff in the news. I mean, like. It's almost overwhelming what's happening in America right now.
Yeah, for sure. I probably doom scrolled about an hour and a half of the hearings yesterday.
Oh my God, with Pam Bondi.
Yeah, but you know, it's ridiculous, but it's also a little satisfying seeing emotion in those hearings, like seeing the members get a little bit heated with their question. Because it's like, cool. Like, don't be a robot. Don't be a lizard person. Like, show some emotion on this stuff.
Yeah, she did not do very well. And then the fact when she pretty much got stonewalled, didn't know how to answer, and said, well, the stock market's at 50,000. And she started pushing, like, if we persecute all these people and we out them, it's going to destroy our economy, and we're at 50,000. And I reposted a funny meme, which was from, actually, there's my two favorite, well, I'd say my three favorite movies these days is Inglourious Bastards. I love Inglourious Bastards. Like, that's on my phone. If I'm on a plane flight, I'm watching Inglourious Bastards, just because Brad Pitt, his character is the best. He's like, you owe me scalps. I mean, so he gets to that whole thing where he's like, I take that bet. And, and then it's like, I'll burn this thing to the ground. It's, but yeah, it's Inglourious Bastards, Shawshank. And then the third one's always Pulp Fiction. I mean, I've come to the realization that my preferred vernacular, if I could take anybody's kind of storyline, verbal kind of like sparring, like anything, is Jules. He's like, I'm on the motherfucker. Like, the coolest cat on the planet. He's like, he's like, bitch, be cool. So, those three movies are great. But Ben, I'm in the exact same boat. I was looking at Pam Bondi stuff, and I was texting back and forth with Dan Holloway, who's on Drinking Bros. And, I was on Dan's podcast, and we were kind of texting back and forth. And he's like, man, I feel like we're overdue for another podcast to kind of go over the state of the lizard people, and more importantly, the depressing state of men in this country. And as we were kind of going back and forth, he made a great thing where he said, people need to be realigned away from populism to principled behavior. Stop worshiping celebrities and read the fucking Constitution and the Western canon. I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, it's, and his mission of trying to convince young dudes to not be retarded and weak, I think, is a well-focused and not a fruitless endeavor. So, but on to something, even though as exciting a time as we live in, there's an age-old proverb that says, may you live in interesting times. And when I originally heard it, I kind of took it as like a positive thing. And it's actually not. It's like you want to live in very boring, mundane, successful, like these kind of calm times you don't want to live in. We are living definitely in interesting times, but we have something else to celebrate, which is the launch of Hammer 90 2.0, which I'm very, very excited about, coming off the heels of our initial Hammer 90, which I think was a raging success. I mean, we had 50 people that absolutely crushed it. We've been doing the consults for our annuals, and the feedback I've been getting is anything short of fantastic. So we're going to roll out the next one. So this is going to be our podcast to not only discuss that, but to kind of launch it and get it rocking.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited. Like you said, the consults, either with people who went through Hammer 90 talking about how they are still able to do the things that we worked on, but then also the people who had not gone through it the first time, talking about like, hey, when is it going to go? When is it going to go? So there's been a lot of chatter from the people wanting it. So I'm just happy that we're actually able to get it going now.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be pretty rad. So just to kind of lay it out a little bit, as like we did with the first one, we capped it at 30 athletes. But if it sells out really quick and there's a ton of demand, we're always happy to add more people. But once we kind of hit that 30, I think if we kind of add a few, I think we went to 50 last time, but we were shooting for 30. I think we're gonna, I'll say that we cap it at that. But if we get a ton of excitement and people are ready to jump in, then we can obviously boost some more. But just operationally, we kind of tackle 30, but I think we can do more. And I think that now that we have the understand of the flow, I think, we can potentially do more of these and maybe handle some more people. But that's always my goal, is to try to get 30 really committed people into this thing.
Well, and I think last time, just because we were doing new tech and some new platforming stuff, I think there was also, with the Power Athlete following, a little bit of confusion, because initially we had them sign up for more information. And I think some people thought, okay, I'm signed up to be in it. But then when we launched sales, they missed that. So yeah, I guess being kind of very explicit about like, we're prepped for 30, but you and I have never really shied away from helping people who want help. So yeah, your best bet's to try and get in on it, but I don't think we're going to say no.
Yeah, no, I mean, if people are excited for it. But what was cool is on the consults we're doing, a bunch of people have reached out, and then during the consult have been like, man, I didn't get a chance to get to this first one. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to get to the second one. So I think not only, going over a lot of the successes, but also through the consults, like realizing we kind of need to bring this up, but then also kind of figuring out how we kind of time it with dates. And so I would love to be able to do them every 4 months, but we're going to be able to maybe line this up maybe 3 times a year. And we're going to start this one with a finish rate on the weekend before Memorial Day. So this is going to be your get in shape for summer, which also I'm pretty excited for, just for the fact that I'm coming off a knee surgery. So I want to jump in and do it too. I want to get shredded for summer.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing, you had said that, and I will turn 40 in April, at the end of April. And I have a goal of being my college weight at 40, right? So I would need to take, that's about another 15 pounds. And so I'll be jumping in on this one. And then we have Bree and Johnny. Bree did the training last time, but I think she's going to dive right in, and Johnny's actually coming off the bench too. So all the coaches are going to be in on this one, which, thinking back to our Eat the Weakness challenge, it's like, there's going to be some, I think maybe more colorful Discord exchanges now that I'm going to have to be suffering through, because last time I wasn't. Last time I was able to eat what I wanted while helping others. But no, I think it's going to be great. I mean, I'm also stoked because when we did the Eat the Weakness, it was just a handful of us. And so now we're going to be able to lean on, 30 plus more people to keep that momentum going. So
yeah, we interrupt this episode with a shameless self-promotion. Are you struggling to balance life and training? Let me introduce you to Grindstone. Punch the clock in the face with our most flexible training program designed to fit around external stresses. Perfect for the boardroom warriors, parents, students, and athletes looking to train while life has your axe to the grindstone. Claim a 7-day free trial by heading to powerathletehq.com/grindstone today. Now, back to the show. This episode of Power Athlete Radio is brought to you by the Business of Strength. Imagine making this your strongest business year yet, with more revenue, better systems, and a gym that practically runs itself. Sounds like a dream. But that's exactly what the Strongest Year Project delivers. It's a 12-month mastermind for gym owners, packed with one-on-one coaching, real-world systems, bi-weekly calls, and a roadmap to transfer your business from inside and out, just like they did at Varsity House Gym. Ready to stop guessing and start growing? Go to businessofstrength.com/attend and join the Strongest Year Project today. I mean, I'm already in marriage counseling, so I mean, I'm sure being another bigger asshole can spur me to get even a little bit farther. But no, I as we've talked about, and I don't mean to belabor the point, but as we've talked about on the podcast and previous ones, I fucked up when we did Eat Weakness. I was like, you know what? I'm going to pull every fucking lever, dive to the bottom, and then just suffer. And it didn't work very well. And I'll tell you what happened. It was the sleep. When all of a sudden, like I got that cortisol spike and the whole thing happened, and I was waking up at like 3:44 a.m. every morning, like that was fucking awful. So I need to be a little more intelligent this time around. and I'm going to ease into it. I'm actually going to take some coaching, which I've never done in the past. I've been like, yeah. I know what I'm doing. Let me go. And this time I'm going to let Ben kind of guide me a little bit, and I'm going to see if I can see a little bit of the magic and get guided through this. But yeah, it's I'm excited. I do enjoy the training. I think I'm going to make some modifications to the training just for the fact that I'm going to throw in a little bit more in the intervals. I know we were doing more sled and some other things. So I got some other movements I want to throw in. I'm pretty excited for. So it'll be another dope program. Now that we kind of understand the tech a little bit and what it is, I think we're going to have a little bump in the price point. But we're going to have early bird discounts. So if you want to jump in on it quick, let's get in early on that. And like I said, you always get what you pay for. And then, let's get into this a little bit. Like, how does this whole thing work, right? Before we kind of get into the prizes and kind of some of the levers that we're going to pull. But walk me through a day. I mean, what does it look like?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is if you're thinking about joining this, if you can schedule some kind of body fat scan, in-body, DEXA, BOD-POD, whatever it is, that's good. I mean, that's helpful, but you don't need to. But typically how this is going to go, or how it went last time, everybody gets signed up and I send out kind of a mass email of some things to kind of get in check for the first week. So, we'll talk about the equipment you need. The nice thing is everything can be run out of your garage. So equipment that will be popping up. I give a broad structure of, 6 training days a week. And then one thing I talked to Johnny and Bree about what we're going to do, we do weekly calls, but we didn't even think about this. And so I apologize to the Dennises and the Grants and the Sarahs, our folks who are not from the US who joined on this. We scheduled our calls and it was 3:00 in the morning in Australia. So Grant and Sarah, they were like, hey, we can't do this. And so it's okay. So this time around, we're going to still have weekly calls, but we're going to alternate the time slot. So every Sunday to start the week, it's either going to be sometime in the morning or sometime in the evening, our time, to help everybody across all the time zones. But those weekly calls are kind of our anchor point for the week. So we talk about, over the 12 weeks, it's kind of like a progressive, we build a system, big systems guy, right? So we build a system, a lifestyle system that includes nutrition, but it's essentially 12 different habits that we just stack on top of each other. So in the beginning, like I tell the folks, they're embarrassingly easy habits, but by the end, we're doing some pretty intricate stuff along the way. So our weekly calls, we talk about those habits. Everybody gets what I call their homework for a week. So whatever the habit is, how are we going to measure success there, things like that. But then we also look at the training, because if people do, because if the sled were to show up and people don't have sleds, or if the reverse hyper shows up and people are like, how do I sub? We kind of talk through all that. So it's on those calls, you're essentially getting personalized training for the group, right? So if you need some special something, we talk about it there. But then we go throughout the week. Everybody's on the Discord, checking in with each other, checking in about the habit that we're doing, talking about training. This is where Grant and Sarah were kind of the guinea pigs because they were ahead of us in time. So they would always drop in early in the morning saying, hey, today is brutal. And then all of us would do it after that. And so it was, they were out there being beta testers of the beta testers. But each week we kind of go through that flow. So during the week, we're on the Discord, hyping each other up, celebrating each other, and also holding each other accountable. Mm-hmm. And then on Sundays, we get together, talk about the week that happened, talk about the week coming up, talk about the new habit. And that's for the 12 weeks. And then the last week, that last meeting, we talk about the exit strategy. And so this is what has been nice during our consults, hearing everybody who went through it, that they're still able to stick to their exit strategy. And so the exit strategy is just okay, you did this 12, these 90 days, 12 weeks of caloric restriction and hard training with this group. How do you keep that momentum going, right? And so we talk about how to find your own caloric loads, how to split your own macros. But then we also talk about hey, essentially Hammer 90 training, if we align it with one of our programs, it's more like Jack Street than any of our other programs in terms of hypertrophy based and 6 days a week and things like that. But the reality is, I think about Adam Colby, right? Adam Colby crushed Hammer 90, lost 30 plus pounds. but he's a dad of, I think, 2, and he's coaching their flag football and all that. So he's like, man, for 90 days, I was able to really grind it. But the reality is I'm a grindstone guy. And it's like, okay, well, if you're going to go over to grindstone, these are changes to make because it's a little bit less activity than this and all that. So the exit strategy, we try and set up for all these different situations so that everybody can continue to maintain that success they had.
Yeah.
And so throughout the week, people who are on it in our portal, they can upload their weights. Throughout the 90 days, we have kind of a minimum of at least once a month doing a set of progress photos that they load up there. And then it's a lot of Discord interaction. And you and I were talking offline, John, but it's still very funny to me how there are active. So there's a private Hammer 90 channel that's still live, and there are people that are active in that are never active in the main channel. So it's like,
yeah, I can't figure it out.
But it's cool. I mean, it's like, hey, you have this tight knit, like you built this micro community within the following, and they still feel really attached to each other. So it's awesome to see them in there. But it's just really funny because it's like, you could sometimes they'll say stuff in there. And it's like you could tell the whole following this, like it would be good for everybody to hear. But it's cool. Keep it here. That's fine.
No, and I'm not saying this because it's us and we're putting this on, but when I looked at kind of similar challenges, kind of looking and doing a little bit of market research, not only on pricing, but what other people offer, in typical power athlete fashion, we end up going way overboard. I mean, the fact that, not only giving you a custom training program delivered through our partner Train Heroic, but also, access into custom nutrition templates and coaching calls, and then obviously something with the Discord, and then what'll be neat is on Sundays, we can bring in some different people like, Joe from, School of Strength and some other experts along the way to kind of come in and be able to, give them a slightly different perspective. And, it's always great to have different people join the calls. And actually this year I'll be on the calls too. I didn't want for the first one, I sometimes am a little worried where, I don't want to show up and have people get a little nervous for some, I don't know why, but like people tend to like be a little more reserved. I wanted you guys to be able to spread your wings and have people get into it, but I'm also excited to be a part of it and to kind of take it from that. But, the options that we're giving you in terms of, not only a training program, but the ability to adjust it through your own private Discord and to have those coaching calls is such a massive value because I think people get into this stuff and they feel alone. I'm doing this, and even though you're kind of virtually training with people, we've just increased the touch points to try to improve the efficacy and the success and really make sure that everybody just gets what they want out of this.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you and I both have been in the actual brick and mortar space, ran challenges there. Like we've seen a lot of these like 90-day challenges, like Get Fit or whatever. But two things. One, we've seen them happen and we've seen them fail, right? Day 91 comes and people haven't built the habits. But two, the information's already out there. Like I would venture to guess everybody who joined the first time, I would venture to guess the majority of them probably already had our protocols, right? Our nutrition protocols. So it's not like they didn't know the numbers, but I would venture to guess all of them are at least smart enough to know how to use the internet to say, how do I, like how many grams of protein, how many carbs and all that. Like they could figure that stuff out. And like you said, a lot of them, when they started on that first build up week to try and get the community going, we asked for like some very open communication, like, why are you here? What are you struggling with? Because the whole idea there is to build that shared connection, to find like, hey, we're all coming from like the same place. We're all busy adults with families or jobs or whatever that are kind of preventing us. And we're just not happy with where we are. And so we break that communication barrier down. But then that's the key to all of this, is to maintain the communication throughout, right? Like not just give the information, all right, 3, 2, 1, go on your own. It's like, no, we are, the information is the least important thing. What it is that's important is the daily touches. So the weekly calls are one thing, but the daily touches through Discord, again, just the connection that it built, that was really what I think the success of this hinged upon. So it's kind of unfair when we talk about like, oh, we did a good job, because a lot of that connection in the beginning was myself, Johnny, and Bree trying to get people going. But by the end, man, it was like people were answering each other's questions. It was really autonomous. And so that was just pretty cool to see.
Yeah, no, like I was saying, as we go through these annuals deal and we start doing the consults, the consultations are really just our high valued customers. They're really our people that are, we call them pipe hitters, the people that are closest to Power Athlete and put their much faith in it. And the response that I got from the people that I've been doing consults with and went through the initial kind of Hammer 90 was like, I think I hit you up and I was like, dude, we got to get this thing going again. And we got to make it a little bit better. So how can we improve upon 2.0 coming from 1.0?
Yeah. So there's the logistics side, right? The staggering the calls, I think is a good move for that. I also think, like you said, we've talked about some of the sticking points on the training, just because, again, we operate in a vacuum. So we did the eat the weakness, but it's like that was we'll say like a biased subset for a beta test of the programming, right? Because we all had plenty of equipment, things like that. So making those tweaks to the training, although I will say we better not lose anything about those Wednesday shoulder days, because those were across the board everybody's favorite day. Yeah. Everybody loved those days. I think. Yeah. You could probably get rid of the drop sets of Bulgarian split squats. I think everybody would be happy about that, but do not get rid of the shoulder day. But yeah, so those kind of logistic changes we'll make, but also just having gone through this now, I've tweaked a little bit of the educational component. We're going to have some of the deliverables that we give, because on those weekly calls, like I said, there is homework, and sometimes I'll send out like little forms and stuff to help people along. But I think from our end, speaking for myself, Bree and Johnny, now that we have a better idea of what this looks like, as going all the way through it, it's going to just be a little bit, it's tough to say like exactly where the change will come from our coaching standpoint, but we just have a better idea of like, okay, here's 50 people. This time, if it's 30 people or whatever, like now we have a better idea of like where all of the following is coming from. So I think we're going to be able to be a little bit sharper on the front end. And Bree has refined her sourdough skills, which that's another perk of being in the private Discord, is you get some pretty solid sourdough baking tips from Bree along the way.
Yeah, no. When I went up to deliver the blazer to Bree and Bill, she handed me this sourdough, and I had to cut it open immediately because I thought she was putting 5-pound plates in there. The density of that sourdough was absolutely amazing, because I go to the farmer's market to get sourdough, and like the hippie chick with hairy pits that cooks it, which is really what I go for. Like if I want to have some really bougie sourdough, I want her to have hairy pits and some really shitty fine line. I know, some really fine line shitty tattoos. And side note on that, yesterday when I was at PT working on my knee, I sat down on the table and was kind of like getting situated. And I looked over, and the girl that was sitting next to me, I was like, holy shit, like this might be the single fastest person I've ever seen in person who wasn't moving. So as I sat down, I looked at her and I was like, it was like seeing a Ferrari parked in the parking lot and knowing that it does 200 miles an hour. I like looked at this girl and I was like, wait a minute, I know who this girl is. And this might be the fastest looking person I've ever seen, just not moving. Yeah. And I kind of like kept looking over at her, and it's the girl, that Julian Alfred from St. Lucia that won the gold medal in the 100 this year in 2024.
Which is she like a UT? What's she doing? Just train?
There's all these pro athletes that train at UT.
Okay.
And so she was in here, and there was another 800 meter dude who's an Olympian, and then there's another marathon guy in there as well. So, but yeah, so I'm like looking at her, and I didn't know if I made her uncomfortable because I kept like looking over at her, but like she got up and I was like, oh my God, like that girl, like, like, I don't know, whatever she's done for her training, which was probably just run real fast. Like, I like just physically, like, I'm like, it's very rare to see people that are put together like that. And then, 800, 100 meter gold medalist in the Olympics. Yeah. But like the physicality of like not only her shoulders and like the waist and like just like how she was set up, I was like, my God, I've never she looked like a Ferrari not moving.
That kind of, to dovetail back to Hammer 90, that reminds me of another kind of point that I realized, and Johnny and Bree and I have talked about over within the 90 days, the group realized, but so a lot of them were talking about like, oh, this was the easiest cut I've done and things like that. But we always talk about body comp, and you and I know when we're on these consults, we have people like, hey, have you gotten a DEXA scan? Well, no, I haven't gotten a DEXA scan. Okay, well, what would you guess it is? And we know historically people underestimate. They don't really have a good estimation of what they are. But that was another interesting thing along the way. The individuals that went through it were able to kind of better calibrate all of that because they were getting scans along the way and things like that. And everybody was just like, man, like I thought I was pretty lean to begin with, but now I know what being lean really is. And I think that's a valuable skill because once you know that, and you and I talk about this all the time, it's like, man, I don't want to go back, right? Like I don't want to, like I did this work to get to this leanness. I never want to go back.
Yeah.
Like this, I want to stay this. And so it was just interesting getting people to calibrate their eyeball test for that, just because they never had before.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of an interesting piece too, especially, me, coming off of that, and we were in some pretty good shape, and then going in and getting my knee cut, and pretty much like, 6 weeks of really not doing much other than just kind of hanging out on the couch, rehabbing my knee, which I didn't necessarily lose that much just for the fact that I wasn't eating like an asshole.
Yeah.
I just was kind of like putting a little bit of fasting in, being like, hey, I'm not going to eat till noon, and then I'm going to eat. So I basically cut it back to 2 meals. And, like my shorts are a little bit tighter, but like very easily well within striking distance to get this thing rocking. So, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. Like when you've kind of dieted down pretty hard and you're pretty lean, like even if you kind of like, I got injured and, I was going to 2 days a week of training, just kind of getting on the bike a little bit and then doing some upper body and then just being really conscious where like, every meal I was kind of like under eating a little bit. It tends to not really come back that fast. And even with, 6 weeks of not really a high level of activity, it really didn't do as much as I wasn't as worried as I was going to be going into it.
Yeah. And that's the goal with like the Hammer 90. That's why we focus on all those habits. Cause that's same thing last time it ended. I want to say it ended between Christmas and New Year's, or maybe the week before Christmas. Anyways, it ended like right around holidays as well. And we went through Thanksgiving, and our motto of don't be weird, like that still rings true. But the thing is, when you go through this and you build those habits and you build this understanding, because in one of the weeks we talk about being able to rate your hunger scale and just being aware of that, then you get to situations where it's like, yeah, okay, I'm on vacation or recovering from surgery or whatever it is. My activity level is down. I can kind of internally govern myself to match my energy output, right? Instead of saying like, oh, I got to eat my 4 to 6 meals because I don't know anything else. It's like, no, I've built this kind of skill set to better understand, like I have a better understanding of how many calories are in certain foods, certain portion sizes. I know I'm not exercising or being as active as I was, so I can scale back and things like that. It gives you like a freedom to make those on the fly decisions, because that's how you sustain it, right? Sure. You and I both know, like you're not going to weigh and measure everything all the time. Like you have to build a sustainable understanding. So it sounds like for the folks who are still on the consults or active in the Discord talking about it, sounds like we're still there for most everybody, which is always reassuring. So,
well, I haven't gotten any emails saying I fucking hated it and needed to, money back. So that's always good. Even though I think we did have one dude who felt that the people that came in a little bit leaner made better results, but like that's kind of like the definition of crazy. Like if I'm already pretty lean and I'm trying to get leaner, of course your results are going to get better. One of the things that it's always funny when you know something from the research and when people say, yeah, that makes sense. But then when you see the numbers and you actually see it in real time and you're like, man, I didn't think it was as dramatic as what it really was. And this was for me, going back to many years, all of a sudden we go back to 22 Jack Street where, Callie and I had to lose 10% and Luke and Tex ended up gaining 10%. And when we went and did the pre and before, the pre and the after bod pods, Callie and I lost, obviously the required 10% of body weight and lost a ton of fat and actually gained muscle, almost like 4 times what Luke and Tex gained. Luke put on 20 pounds and it was less than a muscle of gain. And that's really why we ditched the bulking protocol. And I really stopped encouraging people to bulk, because before we were like, hey, whatever your maintenance is, double it. And, thinking that like, you're going to have to be in this massive caloric surplus to put on muscle. And it's just not the case. It's actually just focusing on the training, focusing on the sleep, focusing on all the other stuff, and then just making sure you're in a slight caloric surplus, like 1 to 200. And then really it's just about the training and being consistent and like, and I'm realizing that unless you're taking a bunch of drugs, you're never going to be able to put on 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 pounds of muscle in, 14, 16 weeks. That maybe over the course of, for more intermediate to advanced athletes, which, unless you're a beginner, most people might put on 3 to 5 pounds of muscle an entire year and then thinking like, all right, how much muscle can I really put on in an individual session? A few grams. So why do I need an extra 4,000 calories to necessarily be the driver for a few grams? But also realizing too that excess body fat and, when your body fat's high, the fat's extremely oxidative, muscle's extremely insulin sensitive. So that insulin sensitivity and like the lack of systemic inflammation from excess body fat makes the protein synthesis a much more realistic and I think just a better experience.
Yeah. And there's another, because talking to people on the way out, and now that I think they're 6 weeks out, the people who did the first Hammer 90, there's also this idea, right? So if you came into this overweight, which most of us who ran it were maybe not like clinically overweight, but heavier than we wanted to be, right? That's why we started it. Except maybe I got to give a shout to Sandy because he came in at like 9% body fat.
Yeah, he was fucking jacked.
And then he got down to like 6 and he's like, hey, I don't think I can go any lower. I was like, no, man, you don't want to go any lower.
Yeah.
But there's this idea where it's like, okay, so let's say, you're 22, you're done with college, you weigh 200 pounds, right? Well, 10 years later, all of a sudden you find yourself weighing 250 pounds, not being happy. It's not like that 50 pounds just dropped on you. That's just 5 pounds each year. So it's really not that much in a small scale, but you just didn't change anything. So there's this idea also where it's like, for most of us, however, sad, I guess it is, if you just don't gain weight, if you stayed weight stable for 90 days, that's probably better than where you were because you were steadily gaining weight to become where you were, right? So there's that first hurdle of like, hey man, the real victory is over these 90 days, you didn't gain any more weight because you had been gaining weight. But then the multiplier of that is like, not only did you not gain weight, you actually lost. And, you throw that 10% out there. That's, I would say probably 8%, just rough estimate was like what people were losing over the 90 days. So it's like, man, now you're actually down quite a bit. And then the question of what's your muscle look like? And some folks, because they came in, what we'll say is like under muscled, they actually put on muscle, but it just took a little bit longer. Because the other thing that people don't realize is when you're in these caloric deficits, you're also pulling a lot of water out of your muscle, right? Because you're lowering carbs and all that kind of stuff. And so if you go like at day 91, you get a DEXA scan, it might say that your lean mass didn't really change, but your body water is down, right? So then when you have a couple weeks on the way out, bringing a few, 50 grams of carbs back in, all of a sudden your muscles are fuller. And it's like, if you did another DEXA, then you would see that your lean mass went up, right? Because it's just math.
Sure.
And so yeah, I think, there's a lot of like qualifiers of victory over the 90 days, but the number one, like you said, is getting lean will just set you up for success for the rest. And the reality is too, like when we talk about gaining muscle, like most of these people are, 30s, 40s. We had a few folks in their 50s do it last time. The reality is you're probably not going to be packing on a lot of muscle at that age anyway. Like the physiology just isn't there. So the goal is start to get as lean as possible while maintaining as much muscle as possible,
sure.
Right? Like that's going to put you in the most metabolically flexible position for the rest of your life.
Yeah. No, metabolic flexibility, we've talked about endlessly on this podcast, but it really comes down to all the research. And, I did a talk for the NSCA. God, it would have to be of 2019. We went down to San Antonio and I got asked to do this talk on metabolic flexibility. And I remember the first time I'd heard the term metabolic flexibility, it was from Rob Wolf. And we kind of looked at it as this North Star that like metabolic flexibility should be a great indicator of proving diet and training and all the other stuff. And when I looked at all of the research that came out, the only deciding factor for metabolic flexibility was body fat in relation to muscle. The leaner you are, the more metabolically flexible you are, regardless of how you got there. You could use a vegan diet. You could use a paleo, a carnivore, like even for guys that were taking, like moderate drugs like the GLP-1s or whatever, like the only thing that mattered for metabolic flexibility was that your relation in muscle to body fat. So at that point, I kind of pivoted my thought. And when I gave that talk, I'm like, whatever allows you to get there, get there. So at that point, I kind of, at the time when I started CrossFit football and really Power Athletes started, we were kind of nutrition zealots in a lot of way. I had come off of, great experience working with Mauro de Pasquale and doing the anabolic diet. And the anabolic diet, the foods we ate were paleo. I mean, it was, very early Vince Gironda Stone Age diet. When then years later, I meet Rob Wolf and he starts talking about this paleo diet. And I was already all in. It was already how I'd been eating for, many years.
Yeah.
So at that point, everybody should eat a paleo diet. And then Matt Lalonde came on and did our nutrition and really kind of helped me with that stuff. And and that's where, if you do the Google search, just tell me what to eat on Power Athlete, that comes up. And we really leaned heavy into it. And I thought that, if you ate like this, the margin of error got much bigger for most people, that I just had to eat like this to stay super lean, not realizing that regardless of like the food quality and the diet that you follow, if you overeat those good foods, and that's when we get into this idea of like good foods and bad foods. And I still make the joke, like, how do you know they're bad? Did they break into your house and steal the wallet? But really understanding that, like, I'll even take it a step further. I was at, when I spoke at the Ancestral Health Symposium, there were a bunch of, paleo zealot people that were there. And the one thing that was interesting was that they were super heavy. And I asked Rob, I was like, hey, Rob, like all these paleo people, like a couple of them are, like he's in good shape and like these guys are in good shape, but some of these guys are fucking kind of obese. What gives? And Rob's like, it's because they eat like starved hogs.
Yeah.
And then we went out to dinner, and watching these people eat like starved hogs, I was like, oh shit. And Rob kind of shrugged his shoulders and he's like, reversing autoimmune and all these things that we've seen. But at the end of the day, you can still get fat overeating paleo foods. If it existed 40,000 years ago, what people are forgetting is that there was no such thing as a grocery store. We didn't have any of the delivery. 40,000 years ago, you were legitimately a hunter and a gatherer. You were out there, you might not eat for 3 days because you're a shitty hunter, or you might have to gather something that's gone rotten. So there's no way to basically out diet the law of thermodynamics. And so, okay.
Well, and that's, that's kind of the beauty about, because the reality is with any kind of leaning, right? The first, 2-3 weeks, not that bad, right? Calories are a little low, but you're still feeling good or whatever. And nobody has problems there. It's the last 30 days that it's really the grind, right? Because at that point, your body is throwing all the signals, like you talked about at the top of the pod, right? The sleep, right? Your sleep gets disrupted. You start to get a little bit more irritable and things like that, because you're very much doing something that your body doesn't want to have happen, right? Our body doesn't want to lose mass, fat or muscle, because it just likes to stay in homeostasis, right? So your body's kind of, I'll say like actively fighting against it. So those last 30 days though, that's also where I feel like the biggest breakthrough is in like what you're talking about, because you're eating seemingly so little. And I'm not saying like we don't take people down to like 1,000 calories, right? They're still eating, I think, probably anywhere from like 18 to 2,400, depending how big they are. But you're eating seemingly so little that you do gain a better appreciation for like, on the way back out, it's like, oh, previously I had, 4 slices of pizza when we had pizza night with the family. And it's like, I really only like after 2, I'm good, or like I can actually just have one. So you gain all of those, talking about Rob, all the kind of neurohormonal stuff that he talks about when it comes to diet, you gain all that stuff back. So then you really can, I'll say like eat whatever you want. And if it's just one meal, like it doesn't really mess you up too much. Right. I think I told you, after we did the Eat the Weakness, my celebratory meal, we went to this Italian place and I smashed pasta. Probably had, I don't know, because I had half my wife's pasta also. So I probably had like 400 grams of carbs in that meal. And I had a few drinks and things like that. And then I woke up the next day feeling fine, right? Because you kind of dialed all that stuff in. And so, the overeating is the sin, and it doesn't matter if you're eating the quote unquote cleanest food ever. It's still overconsumption, right? So dialing all that in is really the key. And that's what we easily do on the challenge.
Yeah. Being able to support. The other thing too, I think for a lot of people, especially in the diet space, there's an idea that one meal is going to derail everything.
Yeah.
And if you think about like from the macro, the 10,000 foot view of a person who's training for a year, and I've heard me say this at the podcast, based on all the research that we've done and all the data points, the person that trains with the greatest amount of relative intensity over the greatest period of time is the one that meets their goal, right? Yeah. Like if you can consistently give me, if you can give me 3 days, I'll take 3. If you can get 4, I can go 4. And then yesterday I was on a consult with a guy and he's like, Jack Street's 6 days. I'm like, it's not 6 days. It's 4 days. I put the other days in there so that people have something to do, because when I didn't, they were kind of like my kids. If I didn't give them something, they were just going to run amok and people were doing crazy shit. That's why we started offering more and more programming, just because. And here's the day. Here's your proteins. Here's your your appetizer with the prep. These other days you can stack them in. But if you're feeling under recovered or you don't want to do them, don't feel like you have to do those. It's really a 4-day-a-week program. Yeah. I personally like doing something every day, whether it's, some of the aerobic work or some mobility or an iron flex. Even if I just go in and blast some arms, I like to do something just every day. I don't want to just sit and do nothing. And so even my idea of a rest day is still going to be some form of active recovery day. And I think the reason that I give those and kind of space it out the way that I do is I'm wanting to go. And I think what sometimes people need is they need a license to not ramp up the intensity on those and being like, these are active recovery days. Remember, small muscles recover quickly. That's why we can train calves and arms and shoulders with a ton of frequency, whereas some of the bigger movers. But, I did hear, what's his name? Jordan Peters. No, Steele's trained by JP. He's a UK bodybuilder. I think I'm messing up his last name, but he made a funny part where they were kind of arguing, and he's very anti, this debate between these kind of old school lifters and the science-based lifters. And JP's an absolute monster of a human. And he was talking about this idea of like frequency, that everybody's afraid of frequency. And his reference was, have you ever seen the Brazilian figure girls? They literally train glutes and legs every single day. And there's a reason, because those girls have I've told the story when we went to the Olympia and I got the chance to see Yarnisha, who's Puerto Rican. And I've never seen anybody physically built like that. She looked like a minotaur, like half horse, half human. And she trains her glutes and her legs every single day. So he's like, if you tell a Brazilian girl not to train her glutes and legs every day, she's gonna look at you crazy. And those girls have the best glutes and legs in the planet. And like their frequency is every single day. So he kind of went back into it. And it's like, this idea of training one body part every 7 days, like we're a lot more durable. You can handle more than that. And it just really comes down to recovery and what you're doing. And I also find too, the boogeyman of like, oh, you can't gain muscle and, your performance is going to drop if you cut calories. As long as the cut is very small, hey, we're just going to limit it by 100 or 200 calories. You're going to be super consistent and you kind of ratchet it slowly over time. It tends to not happen. You can still keep a decent amount of relative intensity, unless you just do like me and just smash your calories down to nothing. And then fucking all of a sudden you're just dying halfway through a workout and wondering why, and then realizing I got nowhere else to go.
Yeah. And that's something I should say we do. So it's kind of like pseudo individual coaching where we give like a baseline calorie for, but then, that's kind of after usually like the second or third week is where I checked in. And then we do kind of a rolling caloric load, right? So a few people, we actually overshot and took them down too low and they kind of lost too fast. And that, I know some people might say like, what do you mean lost too fast? It's like, well, like you just said, the most effective and most sustainable cuts are subtle, right? They toe the line between just enough and too much. If you go too hard, too fast, you'll lose the weight, but then like you said, you'll kind of crash out. And actually one of the people that went through it, Lindsay, she's a jits player. And so she had a fight, I want to say like week 6 of it or week 7. And so she had to cut because she fights a weight class down. And so hers was really interesting because she did like the 2 weeks leading up to that, a traditional water cut, and, weight went down big time. But then on the way out, she never quite got back up to what she was before. So again, it's like, hey, that's like, that's what we're talking about here. A sustainable, subtle cut over time is the best way to go about this. The problem with that some people face, it's not a problem, I don't think, from designing it, but when you're highly motivated, you do the Wellborn, right? You're like, man, I want to run this bait, like let's run it till the wheels fall off. And you do have to practice a little bit of patience there. So some people in the beginning were a little bit hesitant, but then you kind of just hit this drop off point, and it's like all of a sudden the weight starts dropping, and then it's all kind of reaffirming like we're doing okay. I'll also say, kind of back to what you're talking about with the training, I think people also forget just how adaptable our bodies are. And it's like, if you're somebody coming off a grindstone, right? It's like, hey, I really only work out like 3 times a week. Working out 6 times a week seems absolutely undoable. I mean, expect the first week or 2, you're going to be a little sore just from doing more, but you need that for your body to adapt. If you never introduce that, your body's never going to be able to handle it. But your body's pretty easily adaptable, even in a caloric restriction, because that's the thing. People are like, oh man, when you're in a deficit, performance tanks and all that. Nobody's did. There were, across the board, if you talk to anybody who did it the first time, there are PRs all over the place. And not just PRs like, oh, I moved up to like the 50-pound dumbbells and bicep curls. It's like, oh, that's a new 3 rep max on my deadlifts, or like that, like legitimate PRs in a deficit. And part of that, like we talked about earlier, with less body fat, your body's better able to do the things it's supposed to do. So recover, fuel, partition the fuel to the tissues that need it and all that. So it's like, no, there's no inherent performance has to die. But if you're doing this all by yourself and you're deep in a deficit, suffering by yourself in the garage, and you have no other people to talk to about it, then your mental state puts you in a position where it's like, oh, I'm not going to be able to perform well. But if you're physically feeling beat up, but you have a whole gang of other people who are also feeling that, but doing the thing, then your mentality kind of carries you through that. Yeah. And so that's, I think, why we saw the PRs and the performance gains and things like that, was you just had a crew that was there to support you.
Yeah. Well, it sucks feeling like you're lonely and by yourself. And the one thing which is kind of nice is we've created this kind of virtual training environment, obviously with the teams, but being able to kind of pull people in. I mean, honestly, if we had the ability, it'd be pretty bitching to be able to do a Sunday weekly call with everybody in the Power Athlete Nation, the thousands of people that are following. We could almost stand up and start doing, and I was kind of thinking on this, like one of the things we deal with, and everybody in this that kind of does what we do deals with it, whether it be in the coaching space and education, but in the programming and with the teams, it's always a retention issue, because you're always going to get people that come in and they kind of are looking through the window. It might not be for them, we don't know, and then those people peel out. The people that come inside, sit down, and get involved tend to be very sticky and stick with us for a long period of time. So we're always looking at like, how do we keep selling value and adding retention initiatives? One of the big things that we added was the Discord. And even though there's some people that don't like the Discord, and I don't know why, probably because there's some people that came in there and felt that, I don't know, maybe they were too sensitive, and I don't know, maybe certain people jumped on them a little quicker than they should have. But
me? You talking about me?
No, I wasn't pointing any fingers or anything. Yeah, definitely not pointing any fingers.
Yeah, no, not me.
But the age old thing of like, the only dumb question is the one you don't ask unless it's in Ben Skutnik's land, and then he just fucking torches you.
There are no dumb questions, but there are absolutely absurd questions.
There are, and hopefully Thanos is listening to this, and those early days, which I feel like now you guys have totally broed out and like bonded. So I have a feeling that if we put together, and also I'll launch this, is in the end of April, early May, we're going to do a kind of a Hammer 90 tune Jack Street training camp that we're going to open up to the Power Athlete Nation and the general public. So we haven't done it in a number of years. We would do the symposiums, we've done some training camps and certain things, but post-COVID, we just kind of locked it down, and we've just been working with our Power Athlete coaching staff, or Block 1 coaches. But I'd like to open it up to the greater, and then also tag a Block 1 on the backside. So one of the things I always love about the collective is we bring in the coaches and we tag a block one on that, and realizing that that's a much more rich experience for them because they get to see the whole thing more so than just going through the League of Shadows, testing thing, which, Luke and Tex really liked and I never really did. But making sure that it's fun, that people get to come in, they can test, they can have fun, and they can be part of the block one. And then later in the year, come back to this year's Power Athlete Collective, which is just open to block one coaches. But this year, I'm pretty excited to do Grindstone. And rumor has it, we're going to have a fishing derby.
Fishing derby.
We're going to have a fishing derby. So one of the things that I'm doing, because my birthday's at the end of March, I am busting ass for the next couple of weeks to finish up the creek. And I hired some guys to come and help me. And we're going to plug up the dam. And when that sucker gets plugged, the water's going to fill up. And then we're going to stock that thing with fish. And I'm going to bring in some big fish, a few big ones. And I'm going to see the person that catches one of those big ones. Now, you don't get to keep my fish because you're going to throw them back. It's catch and release. But if you catch them, but I'm going through, I'm removing all the logs, and I'm actually cutting a bunch of, we have some really interesting. So this is what's cool about where I live. The creek, Little Barton Creek runs through our property, and I own both sides. And it's the guy that we got the property from used to use it as a watering source for his cattle many years ago. And so he set up a dam on one side so they could have captured water. He didn't maintain it. It cracked and just kind of flowed through. But because of the water source and where it existed, we have some plant species that don't exist anywhere else in the hill country. And I know this because I hired this kind of arborist dude to kind of come out and give me an assessment many years ago. And he's like, you have black willows. And he kind of started naming all these trees. And I wrote them down. And then the one guy, Big Josh, who's been kind of helping me with this, as we were kind of going through, he's like, man, I've worked all over this area and I've never seen, we got hardwoods, we got walnut, we got pecan, I got oaks, I got red oaks, I got lives, I got all these cool trees. But the interesting thing is the some of the black willows ended up kind of falling down and kind of doing this kind of weird kind of piece. So I'm looking at that, and all I'm thinking is when this thing floods, I'm going to lose my lure and I'm going to lose my hook every single time on that because the fish are going to hide underneath those trees. So I'm purposely cleaning that stuff out so these fish got nowhere to hide.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I think, but also I'm pretty stoked for the training camp as well. Cause as much as I love our coaches, it's just cool that's something I miss about the symposium was meeting all the followers, right? Just interacting with the actual community. Cause like you said, it used to be the norm and then COVID hit. And it's I just think that's the missing piece for a lot of folks, especially I know there's a good amount of people who follow Power Athlete who go to a normal, a brick and mortar gym and work out there or whatever. So they are around other people, but there's a lot of us that are in our garages by ourselves, and it's just cool to actually get out and connect. And so that'll be a fun week. And if we're doing end of April, early May, the weather should be pretty nice. Cause I know when we do the collective, it's like a roll of the dice. It could be freezing or it could be 110 degrees outside, but
originally when we started the collective, we were in Newport Beach, and, December's a great time of year, especially for everybody. It's a little bit slower. So we kind of, did that. And when we came out here, we kept it that same first weekend in December. And the weather here in Texas is so unpredictable. One year we had snow, one year was 100. It's just all over the place. So what I did is I moved it back into September, and then we moved it into October. And I felt like that was a pretty good thing, because what people don't realize in Texas, after Memorial Day in May, the end of May, through really just the end of September, it's really hot. And then it kind of chills out a little bit, end of September. Then we'll get a few hot days. And then really that kind of early October, middle of October is pretty nice. And then this time of year, this is perfect time. That's why I got, I'm going to start hammering on the creek to try to get this thing done so that I can get this thing stocked and ready. But, we've done Hammer 90 we did last year, Hammer we did last year, which I thought was epic. McPhee came and shot. We had our Go Ruck Challenge, which was really bitching, got to use the creek in that way. And then the one I've been kind of really sitting on, trying to figure out who the special guest will be for Grindstone this year. So if you have any recommendations or who you think we should bring in, I'd definitely like to have a special guest. But we're going to, the collective's going to be bitching in the fishing derby. But I'm excited to put on this training camp and kind of do like a hypertrophy jack street. And it'd be great if the people that are following Hammer 90 can make it as kind of a little tune up before the end of the year, which I think would be pretty amazing.
Yeah. And, the one thing, if we're talking about like hopes and stuff with the Hammer 90, earlier you asked like what kind of changes, and it's not a change that either one of us control, but I hope more, and I just hope more women sign up this time, because if I look back, we had some dudes who really crushed it, but I feel like the consistency across the women are just better at kind of doing like staying on task, right? Like the women who were in it, they were like, no, even when times were like the deficit was deep or whatever, they were never like, poor me. It was always like us dudes who were like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. So the women are really good motivators, but also, and this is selfishly just watching my wife, because my wife went through it last time. I think feedback from her is because of the group, because of the motivation to lift heavy and things like that, she has a total new perspective on how the training is supposed to go, right? Because she's followed Jack Street for, outside of the time she was doing Hammer 90, she followed it, I think, a year and a half before that. So she's been on Jack Street a while. But it's funny, earlier this week, you had programmed the deadlift every 30 seconds workout. And we work out in the morning. So she was in the kitchen. She was like, I just don't know what weight to do. And I was like, well, what was the weight the last time you did that? And the last time it popped up for her was before Hammer 90. And she's like, oh, it looks like I did 185. So I guess I'll just do that again. But I like reminded her, I was like, what would the Hammer 90 chicks say? And it's like, oh yeah, you're right. And she went out and she ripped 205 for the workout. And it's like, that's, as much as I love broing out, I feel like the value return for women, just because generally they aren't exposed to training the same way men are growing up and things like that. Mm-hmm. All the women crushed it. And I think, Sarah wrote a nice testimonial about like reintroducing herself to training after having kids and things like that. And so I really hope more women jump on, because one, it also helps to have a little bit of estrogen balance out the bros when we start getting a little cranky. But I think learning how to really push it on the training is real valuable there, because again, historically, they just don't get that narrative like we do.
Yeah, no, the women that wade into the power athlete ecosystem tend to be some of the coolest chicks, like just seeing what Bree was able to do and the transformation she put together. I'm just forever a fan of hers for that. I mean, it's and her honesty, and just the fact that she's a mom and a nurse and like trains and does this. And when I stopped in and saw her and Bill, she was talking about their hunting. They have a hunting lease. They went out there and she's out there killing shit too. So no, it's pretty neat to get those girls into it. So I think for this year too, what we're going to do a little bit different. I'm just saying in the 2.0, we want to offer a prize. So I think Ben and I were talking a little bit about it. So we're going to offer a prize of $500 in Power Athlete Yeti gear. So we have some pretty cool co-branded Yeti stuff that I think would be pretty fun to be able to send out to people. So we're going to figure out that. And I think what we're going to do, and I haven't put together the exact kind of recipe of like what constitutes the winner, but what we'll do is there's obviously going to be certain requirements. Like you're going to have to do the training, you're going to have to be consistent on the calls, you're going to have to be consistent with the pictures, and we'll kind of put those together, and then we'll take all those people that meet those criteria, group them up, and then between you, me, and Bree and Johnny, we'll kind of vote on who we want. And it's not necessarily going to be, let's see, the person who like a guy like Sandy who went from 12% to 6% or 9% to 6%. I mean, look great, but the person, and like some of those pictures we were looking at before and after. I mean, a guy was 290 and goes to 260, loses 30 pounds. It's not like life changing in terms of like seeing the pictures, but then realizing that to lose 30 pounds. And that, I mean, that to me, so there's got to be a little bit of like subjective. It's not just all, but it's a person that, proves himself as the most dedicated and really just like adheres to the spirit of what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing, because a lot of times these challenges are like who had the best transformation physically, right? And I guess the way I'm approaching it this time, because last time it was like, let's try and figure this out. But the way I'm approaching it now, just seeing how it went last time, like the physical transformation is really the easiest part. Like it's the guarantee. We're going to be in a caloric deficit. We're going to bang heavy weights often. You're going to lose weight, right? So I think the important thing that we are doing is like, that's not really going to be the bearing on who gets awarded, because this isn't necessarily, while this is or part of this 90 days is about weight loss. This isn't a weight loss challenge. Since day one, we've pitched it as, this is a lifestyle transformation, right? This is a transformation program. And so, yeah, the consistency on workouts, the consistency on the weigh-ins, the progress photos, the jumping on calls, like those measures of consistency, those will weigh more when it comes to deciding who won, right? Because yeah, it is, some folks, they lost a ton of weight, but they had such a young training age that they were just under muscled. So it's like, man, you can tell I lost a lot of weight, but it's not like I'm looking jacked right now. And it's like, that's great. You lost a lot of weight, right? Like, we don't want to reinforce like you have to look a certain way. Although, yeah, between Sandy and Dennis, I think, if I would love to look like them, like they're just jacked, right? So the prize will be based off of, some objective criteria on consistency. And then, the coaches will do a coaches huddle and just really say like who, you can almost think about it instead of like a winner. It's like, who's the team captain of this Hammer 90s team, right? Like who represented it the best.
Yeah. All right. So to recap, right? So we're going to, this podcast is coming out this week. It's going to come out on a Friday. And after that, we're going to start smashing some email blasts. You're going to see it on social for the sign up. We're going to have that early bird sign up for a discount. We're going to cap it at 30 athletes. If it fills really quickly, obviously we have the ability to add some more. 30 is my goal, but I'd love to be able to do 50. I mean, if we even got more than that, I'd be happy to try to choke on it. So we got that early bird pricing, which I think is so important. Don't wait to the end, sign up. And not only do you get access into the group, so you're going to have a private training program written by me and supported by Ben. We'll go back and add some fun stuff. I got some good ideas. But we have our weekly calls on Sunday. We got a private Discord group, and then all the macros and the coaching and everything that you need to maximize your success. Mm-hmm. And then at the very end, based off of some criteria we put together, which will look like adherence to the program, who took before and after pictures, who was able to get like a DEXA or bod pod or something before and after to really see, what the body fat was, what the lean body mass and the biggest transformation. And the person that really just, embodied the spirit of what we're looking for will get selected as our winner and end up with $500 in Power Athlete Yeti gear to sport. And it'll be pretty amazing. And then what we'll do is we'll regroup and see if we can keep pushing these and keep changing lives one day at a time.
Yeah. And at the very least, you're going to get bikini ready for Memorial Day weekend, right? And it's always good showing up looking better than all your friends.
Yeah. There was I'll give him a tap of the hat because I haven't talked to him about him in a long time, but good old Nathan. So good old Nate. Nate, who was the original, space monkey on our Bedrock program. And, when Luke had was getting set up for his wedding, we had a bachelor party. Mm-hmm. And Nate Austin decided that this was going to be his chance to one up everybody. So Nate fucking busted his ass, was eating like 500 calories, totally dehydrated, shows up. And, Ben's there, obviously Chris was there, but like Luke and all of his buddies, and they rented this Airbnb with a pool, and they were too cheap to get strippers. So they got bikini bartenders, which was worse. And everybody's hanging out, having a good time. And, Ben Oliver comes in, pops his top. Nate takes his shirt off and literally, dude, like absolutely shredded.
Yeah.
And like,
I remember watching, the lead up on social media, because he was posting some stuff and he was like stage ready.
Yeah.
Like he was stage ready for that.
Dude, he was up like, sweatshirt on, headphones on, 5 a.m. out there power walking with a vest. I mean, he literally hit all of his cardio, like calories were low, protein, training, like he dialed everything. And like the look on like Luke in them's face when he like popped his shirt off, I was like, you know what? Good for you, Nate Austin. Fucking winning one for Nate and just one-upping. Now, the problem was he was so dehydrated, he had one beer and just instantly went off and went to sleep. It was great. We like cracked the beer. He finished. He's like, oh, it feels so good. And he just like went in and laid down on this bed and like didn't wake up for 6 hours. That's how I knew he was really dehydrated, for the fact that I was like, dude, this is crazy. Are you all right?
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, we don't get that extreme on Hammer 90. We look good though at the end, but we're not taking ourselves that deep. But yeah, and then I mean, it'd be cool also, like you said, we're gonna have that training camp. If people wanted to join in on that along the way, that'd be super cool to just see everybody IRL in real life, right? But yeah, I'm stoked. I'm ready to hit this thing. My wife is upset because on the exit call, I told everybody like, hey, wait a certain amount of time before you like get into another cut. And she's like, you guys are going again. I want to get on it, but she's not. It's like, hey, you've only been 6 weeks out. Like you got to give yourself a little bit more time. So she's jealous because even though she's been doing Jack Street for almost 2 years now, she still thinks that this training cycle was like the most fun that she's done.
Oh, well, cool. Well, maybe we'll be able to, add another one and just add her in. I mean, I'm happy to have her just for the mere fact that, last thing you want to do is have your wife fired up at you.
Hey, I mean, there's nothing stopping her from joining in on the training, right? Like we share the same garage.
The fact that you guys are in there training together is really heartwarming. I'm pretty sure my wife like books her training sessions when she knows I'm not going to be in there.
Yeah,
she's in her. She's got her ladies crew though. She's pretty deep with her ladies crew, and then they're just in there when we do show up at their time. They're just in there giving us dirty looks the whole time. And then a couple of the ladies that train with her also do jujitsu. So like Arash and the guys show up and they're always like, hey, like hugs and stuff. And then they're always giving us dirty looks. And I'm like, yep, they're in the jujitsu mafia. He sucked them in.
Yeah. See, our ladies crew is a 4 and a 6 year old that just asked me questions like, hey, why couldn't you lift that weight up? And it's like, all right, just happens to be 8 times your body weight, but whatever.
You're like, don't make me let you catch a fresh one.
Yeah, right. Like gentle parenting. I mean, I'm stoked. I'm stoked for this. We've been chomping at the bit for a while. So Johnny, I know, stoked. Bree, stoked. And it sounds like also there's some Power Athlete Block 1 coaches who maybe feel like they should have jumped on it last time that are thinking about getting in on this time. So
a little bit of FOMO.
So I think the coaching is going to be exponentially higher, right? Coaching quality, coaching input, just because you're in it, I'm in it, Bree's in it, Johnny's in it. If we get some more Block 1s, I think it's going to be a great time.
Yeah. Awesome, dude. Well, I'm excited. If you're listening to this, which I hope you are, keep an eye out for an email. We're going to get signed up and let's get running 100 miles an hour and you get all the details. So if you want more information, just kick it over to training@powerathlete.com. And the sign up link, let me pull it up here. I think
it's powerathletehq.com/hammer90.
Yeah. Say that again.
powerathletehq.com/hammer90. So
awesome.
Hammer 90. Yep.
Awesome. Well, cool. I'm excited. So keep an eye out for it and we'll get rocking. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of Power Athlete Radio. See ya.
See ya.
Hey there, Power Athlete Nation. Big shout out to all the heavy hitters who stuck around till the final whistle. If you've been soaking in the knowledge bombs and epic tales we've been dropping for free, here's your chance to be a game changer. Swing by ko-fi.com/powerathlete and toss a few bucks our way to keep the podcast fueled and firing on all cylinders. That's ko-fi.com/powerathlete. Your support makes a difference. See ya. This episode of Power Athlete Radio is powered by Train Heroic, the most immersive strength training app experience on the market. We've built an online training business by partnering with Train Heroic to deliver all of our world-class training programs like Jack Street, Hammer, Field Strong, and Grindstone. To learn which Power Athlete training program best suits your goals, head to powerathletehq.com/training. And if you're a coach looking to build a business with the best training tech in the business, head to trainheroic.com/powerathletehq.